There might not have been a Bill Gates. There might not have been Microsoft. It all came down to a few decisions. Let me tell you the story.
Steve Wozniak here, Tom Peng. I hope your YouTube channel's going well. If you have skills in one area, it's important to pay attention to the other disciplines that make a business successful. Marketing and business itself, just wanting to be successful and make money so you can live forever. I wish you luck.
You know, I feel very, very fortunate because I am old, all right? I lived in a very fascinating time. I experienced the birth of personal computers in the 80s, in the 90s, and the birth of internet in the 2000s, the 2010s, and now 2020, right? So I've seen, from nothing, from no computers, nobody had any computers, to today. I have witnessed everything that happened, all right? I am that old. There were many, many fascinating stories during this really pioneering time, from no personal computers to everyone has a computer, everyone has a mobile phone, everybody's on the internet. There were a lot of stories, and there were a lot of key people involved, right? We all know about Bill Gates, we all know about Steve Jobs, we all know about Mark Zuckerberg, we all know about all the pioneers that made all these technologies, all the conveniences of life possible. And today I'm going to tell you a story about this guy. His name is Gary Kildall. Gary Kildall, I think. And he could have been Bill Gates. He could have been Bill Gates. He could have been a billionaire. He could be a multi-billionaire. He could be running the largest corporation in the world, but he didn't. Instead, Bill Gates, is the guy. And I want to tell you what happened. You see, back in, I can't remember, but long time ago, Microsoft started their company, and their first product wasn't, operating systems, wasn't Windows, wasn't MS-DOS. It was actually, software to control traffic lights. Traffic lights, yellow, green, red lights, car stops, when I know in Vietnam people don't care about traffic lights. Well, not so much, but they wrote the software to control traffic lights. And they sold to no one because nobody cared, right? Nobody really wanted a computer controlled traffic light. So they really didn't get any success from that business. And then, Steve Wozniak, who, probably gave the intro to this video. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs invented Apple computers. Their first computer was Apple I and Apple II, and Bill Gates and Paul Allen, the founders of Microsoft, wrote the first basic language for the Apple II computer, right? So that's, the world of computers was very, very small. It was only about 20 people, and I just named 4 of them. Bill Gates, Paul Allen, Steve Jobs, and Steve Wozniak. They're all related. They all know each other, right? Because the world of computers was very, very small. And they all live, in Seattle, Oregon, California, not too far from where I was, which is Vancouver, Canada. And so all of this revolution in computers is happening, in a very small neighborhood and by a very few people. And, so Bill Gates and Paul Allen built Microsoft first by writing, basic programming language that were embedded into the early computers. There was another company called IBM. You might have heard of this company, International Business Machines. At first, they thought, nobody needs computers, right? Who would need computers in their homes and their business? That's a silly idea, right? And so they never actually, got involved in the personal computer business until, Apple, Atari, Commodore, all those companies are taking off, and it's becoming like a huge business. And IBM is like, dude, we really need to get into this business. This is going to replace the mainframes. computing business, right? The personal computers is going to take over the world. Now they finally realize. And so IBM quickly put together, this very first IBM PC, but they need an operating system. They need the operating system is like the first software that you run when you start the computer. They need the operating system, but nobody has this operating system for IBM. So IBM reached out to Bill Gates, Microsoft, and say, hey, can you build us a operating system? And Bill Gates, was a very young guy back then. He was probably in his teens or early 20s. He's like, yeah, well, we don't really do operating systems. He sounds exactly like, we don't really do operating systems. But I know this friend. His name is Gary Kildall, all right? You can talk to him. I think he has an operating system called CPM. So IBM knocked on Gary Kildall's door. Gary Kildall had a company called CPM. They built a product called CPM, which is one of the earliest operating systems. And Bill Gates even called Gary and said, well, this very big company is going to come to your door. You better take care of it, all right? Bill Gates warned Gary Kildall. But Gary, guess what happened? When IBM went to his house, remember, this is old times, right? There was only the telephone and face-to-face visits. There was no internet. There's no way to send emails. So IBM actually went to his house and knocked on the door to try to meet Gary Kildall. And guess what? Gary Kildall forgot about the meeting. All right? Gary Kildall actually went to fly his plane. He has a personal aircraft. And that day, he forgot about the meeting with this very big company. He went to fly his plane, just for fun. And he missed this big meeting. So Gary Kildall did not meet IBM. And IBM went back to Bill Gates and say, Bill, we couldn't find Gary. I still need an operating system. We still need an operating system. Can you build us one? And Bill's like, well, I don't know. We're not really in the operating system business, but maybe we have something that we can do for you. All right, we'll get back to you. And then Bill Gates did not write the operating system. He went to another company called Quick and Dirty Disk Operating System, another product, another company, and he bought the rights to that product, and he's re-licensed it to IBM. All right, he did not build the product. He just went and bought the entire rights to the product, and he did not resell the rights to the product. He only licensed the product to IBM. These things are not because Bill Gates is really smart and strategic. Apparently this all happened out of coincidence. He did not know that these decisions that he made along the way helped him build a massive company that is Microsoft. Anyways, so Bill Gates bought this product called Quick and Dirty DOS, and he renamed it to MS-DOS, Microsoft DOS, Microsoft Disk Operating System. And he licensed it to IBM. License means that IBM doesn't own the operating system. IBM only has the right to give their users the right to use the product, all right? Because IBM built the product so fast, there was no proprietary technology in IBM PC. That means anybody can copy IBM PC. So there was a lot of clone IBM PCs, including Compact and many others. Some of you older people may know, basically a lot of brands you can choose from. Even today, you can go to a computer store, you can buy Lenovo, you can buy Dell, you can buy any brand, and they all run Microsoft Windows, right? And same idea. Because IBM built the IBM PC really fast, they did not put in any proprietary technology. Anybody can copy the product. That resulted in many brands on the market basically selling the same thing. This gave Microsoft a great opportunity to license their products to Compaq, to Dell, to many different PC manufacturing companies that make IBM PC clones. And that built Microsoft. Microsoft became a massive, huge company by supplying the operating system to all these IBM PC clones. MS-DOS was the original product that made Microsoft a massive company. And of course, Gary Kildall, CPM, did not become the standard operating system for IBM PC because Gary wasn't at home when IBM knocked on door, right? So Gary was, of course, very, very upset. Gary, probably punched himself in the face, like, fuck, if only I was at home and, answered, those IBM guys, I would have been Microsoft, but I would have been, Bill Gates, but, I fucked myself, right? So Gary Kildall tried to sue IBM, and then eventually IBM agreed to, give customers a choice, whether, the customer want to install MS-DOS or Gary Kildall's CPM operating system, but it was just too late, because by that time, MS-DOS has already dominated the market. And everybody was using MS-DOS. Eventually, Microsoft moved to Windows, the product about, Windows operating system, and then it just never stopped. And Gary Kildall, well, he had to live his life knowing that he missed this huge opportunity. So he was really in, sadness. He was in despair. He was in depression, right? He was sad every time he think about this massive, huge opportunity that he missed. And eventually, his wife divorced him because he was not a happy person. And one day, I think he was killed because he was in a bar and he, for some reason, tried to stop a fight in a bar and he ended up being killed. And that was the story of Gary Kildall. He could have been Bill Gates, but he didn't become the richest person in the world, the largest company in the world, because he missed one single meeting with IBM. So, what's the moral of the story, right? What's the moral of the story according to Tom? Well, opportunities come knocking on your door maybe a few times in your life, right? Maybe there's only a few times in your life that you can help or you can build a massive, huge company, right? You have the right idea, you have the right people, you have the right product, you have the right capital, you have the right ingredients to make something happen. When you have the opportunity, right, take it, cherish it, seize it, take hold of it, don't let it slip away. Don't be like Gary Kildall. When IBM come knock on your door, make sure you stay at home. When customers say, come see me at my office, go see the customer because you never know what will happen. If the customer says, let's meet tomorrow, you meet the customer tomorrow because that could be your biggest break. That could be your biggest opportunity. And if you're like, well, I don't know, I'm sick, I don't feel like going, and you just missed it, right? So take every opportunity in your life seriously. Don't let it slip away. Don't be like Gary Kildall, right? Bill Gates called him because Bill Gates did not have an operating system. And Bill Gates referred IBM to Gary Kildall, right? And Gary Kildall fucked it up because apparently flying a plane is more important than meeting IBM. What a fucking idiot. And he deserved not being the richest person in the world, right? And I don't want that for you. I want you to take every opportunity that comes up in your life seriously, cherish it, seize it, take advantage of it, because the opportunity of your life may not come around again. All right? If you don't seize it now, maybe you'll be poor forever, doing shit, doing nothing. But maybe the opportunity you have is what you're doing now. Cherish it, do the best you can. Make things happen, Don't let opportunities slip away. All right? Take fucking action and don't be a fucktard.